And we welcome you into day number 3 of the best podcast available, training camp edition. Gibbs, Shook, Gribble, styling and profiling with the hat for day 3 and for the next 30 days. It's surgically attached to his head.
White on white. A lot of white shirts out today. It's hot.
It's hot day.
Yeah.
It is a very, very warm day, to say the least.
I didn't get the memo, evidently.
That's all right. You got a T-shirt on.
Yeah.
That's a nice T-shirt.
I went
I did
cool.
not get that T-shirt.
I went dry fit. Very cool. You know why I did? I benefited from being the only person in the department that wears extra large. I got all the XL stuff.
Well,
Shortage.
I'm a little bit larger, and they don't have anything in my size.
Shortage on the L's right now.
Yeah.
I'm wearing some 2018 gear right now.
Yeah.
So that's your fashion update from the best podcast available. We're recapping day 3. It was a hot day. It was a hot morning. Definitely, I think, one of the bigger crowds from the first 3 days. A lot of people somewhat into it. It took a little bit to get going, but by the end of practice, they were up and at 'em. But first day in pads, and a big day for this football team from an offensive side of things and a defensive side. And much like yesterday, Gribbs, you could take some positives away from the offense and the defense.
Yeah, I'm taking more positives away from the defense today, though. I think it was
really?
I liked what I mean. They made things difficult and made things tougher for the. There's a reason why there didn't seem to be as much excitable moments, is because the offense really wasn't getting much going. And I think that, and I focused mostly on the first team offense versus first team defense. There was obviously some highlights with the second team offense, third team offense, but really it took until the end of camp today, which was maybe the most impressive offensive stretch we've seen in all 3 days, but it took a while to get there. And Baker, it looked great in the red zone period, but clearly when he got frustrated the period before that, got upset with some people for not running the scramble drill. I think that was obviously a reflection of that play, but it was a tough day up to that point before he lit into his group a little bit.
There was probably a good amount of a cause for concern leading up to that 2-minute drill because the offense just was disjointed. They just couldn't really get much going, and like you said, they couldn't get guys to finish their routes. It just didn't seem like a very good offensive practice. You had guys false starting. You had all kinds of blocks being missed, especially on the edge, and this is a very good defensive line, but that 2-minute drill really did save their momentum for the day and opened everybody's eyes again to, wow, this is a very talented group. And when they have to move quickly, they can move the ball very fast. They covered 60 yards in 3 plays. It was a heck of a display to close practice and a positive momentum going into Sunday. But I was surprised that despite the defense really winning most of the day, the defensive line wasn't quite as good as they were the first 2 days, and I think a lot of that had to do with pads. J.C. Treader kind of predicted it yesterday, which was that he said the defensive line thinks they're going to get an advantage from putting pads on them, and really we're going to get the advantage in the offensive line because now we can get physical with them. Before we didn't have anything to grab on, and I think that showed at times today.
All right, let's get right into it. Practice number 3 in the books, game balls. Let's start handing them out. Gribbs, we'll start with you.
I'm going a little off the wall here. I'm picking T.J. Carey. I think that he is an often overlooked guy at corner, but he's been with the ones basically since the OTAs has begun, largely in the slot. Gets an interception on one of the first plays in 11-on-11s, and he's also, I think, another guy that benefits from the pads being on. He likes to get physical with receivers. I think when you have the pads on, you can get away with a little bit more than when you're just in the jerseys out there. He plays his best against bigger receivers. We saw what he did against Julio Jones last year against the Falcons. I just think this kind of environment benefits him, and I think when we talk about this Greedy Williams-Terrence Mitchell competition, it's almost overlooked that T.J. Carey is a likely starting cornerback on this team, and you're kind of figuring out everything else. But no matter what happens, if Greedy Williams is fighting Terrence Mitchell for a job, then you've got 4 corners you can rely on, and I think T.J. Carey is one of them.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting point that you take away from that is that you have 4 very solid corners, and it was a really good day from TJ, who had kind of rough couple days. So that was exciting. But my guy, my game ball guy is going to be Blake Jackson, who found some spaces. You talked about it earlier. The second and third team, maybe made some plays. Well, Blake Jackson was a star of the second team. He was a frequent target, and he did really well against Javonte Dean a few times in one-on-one situations where Dean was all over him, and he still made the grabs, or he made some grabs in tight spaces, juked a guy out, that kind of thing. Caught a ton of balls today and looked really good. in those sessions.
Damon Sheehy Giuseppe, to follow up on the Blake Jackson train. So a couple wide receivers in the back of that room competing for those last few spots that we've talked about it both in the training camp preview and the last 2 days. That battle seems to me maybe the best battle going on right now here in training camp. Guys really competing for spots. And Giuseppe had another nice day today. And we'll hear from Freddie later on both Jackson and Giuseppe and the contributions that they made so far. But I think he's had a nice day. And right up there, though, I don't want to shortchange Carey because I think TJ's had a really good – I think he's had a better camp than maybe we think. Or at least I would tend to disagree that he's been a little off. I think he's been pretty solid. And I thought that, all 3 game balls today worthy participants, to say the least.
I was throwing an honorable mention. It's another wide receiver. I thought Derek Willis has looked really good the last 2 days, and he made a bunch of plays today as well. And I think that he's got the size that is maybe missing in that wide receivers room. If you're looking for advantages to give to certain players, there's no one that's built like Willis in that room right now.
On your point about Sheehy, it seems like his story is starting to become a favorite among the fans. Perhaps a modern.
I believe you had that.
I did. Mark it down. I had that. Perhaps a modern day Ben Gay, or somebody like that. He's popular with the fans. The metrics even show. Our traffic is up on those stories, which is crazy because that story was published
People keep
months
going back to it.
Months ago.
It was the number 4 read story on our website on Thursday.
The first day of camp.
Yes.
Yeah. People are retweeting my tweet from months ago related to that story still. Today, somebody did. And you go all the way up the chain to the top to ownership. They even like how hard he's working. So, I had a nice conversation with them today, and they are also noticing. He's a big story.
I want to go back to one point, and that is the 2-minute drill where the offense looked really good. I overheard a fan talking about this, and it's something I've noticed basically since he's come onto this team. But how comfortable does Baker look when the pace is picked up?
Oh.
I mean, that's when he is at his best. And that's when I wonder, is this what we're going to see more of? Because every time this team runs with pace, it seems like Baker is just that much better. And because obviously he had 2 wide receivers make 3 great catches on that drive, but the throws were perfect on each one of those.
He's decisive. He's quicker with his decisions, for sure.
I'm watching that series with Jim Donovan on the sideline, and neither one of us said a word, and it got done, and we looked at each other, and he was like, so that's how this is going to be this year. And I said, I wouldn't mind that if we went up and down.
Not
3
at all.
plays, 65 yards, 30 seconds, if that.
Not at all. Not a problem at all.
That's your scoring recap
And
right there.
it really was a reality check, too, once the second and third team offenses came in because they struggled, and they couldn't get the ball very far on the field. And then you go back and you're like, wow, they moved it with such ease. I mean, that's the potential of this offense. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and there were moments where we saw Baker get a little upset with some of his wide receivers, and at times looked a little off, but then there's that series, and it's just like click, click, boom, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, maybe he's just working on some things on his own because he knows what he has to do.
Well, the back-to-back days, the 2 most competitive moments of practice, he's been at his best. That final play on Friday's practice was perfectly executed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he is a gamer. Clearly, last year he practiced really well, too. He's been practicing very well this year, but the accuracy just gets a little bit better when something's on the line, it seems like.
So a few injuries of note today. Duke Johnson out with a little soft tissue, and we'll kind of wait and see how that plays out. A few other guys dinged up. Ratley missing some valuable time right now with the way the other wide receivers in the room are playing.
Missing some time, and unfortunately, this is the nature of the business. Losing some ground, I think, in that battle for that position.
Yeah,
I think he was in a good spot before, but it just depends on how long he's going to be out. I think if he's back soon, I think he'll be all right, and I think he's got a really good shot to make the team. But if you miss a few weeks, that can really put you behind. And I think we'll know the severity of some of these running back injuries based on if there's a roster move or not. Usually don't go back-to-back days of camp without 3 running backs. So, I mean, this could mean we're seeing potentially Kareem Hunt back by Monday, potentially Duke is back by Sunday or Monday. I think Freddie called him a quick healer, so that might mean something that's not too serious. So I would expect either a new face added to that room or one of these 3 guys that are out either back tomorrow or Monday.
Sounds like a superpower, being a quick healer.
Indeed. I wish I had that ability. I certainly do not.
Definitely not.
I know for a fact because you and I both walked over during the 7-on-7 period. I got a little bored watching that, and I saw that the offensive linemen were going against the defensive linemen.
Yes.
You being the lineman aficionado and resident hog molly.
Ran around the field.
Your biggest, yes. I saw you running. I was not running. It was hot. I did make my way over there, though. Your takeaways from what you saw today with those guys?
It was really fun to just see them in pads, first off. You get what you expect from a Joel Bitonio, from a J.C. Tretter. Chris Hubbard, I don't think I realized last year, has really sweet feet. He's lighter on his feet than you'd anticipate, and I think that really helps him out at times. I thought Kendall Lamb looked better today than he did yesterday. I think putting the pads on definitely helps him because he's a bigger guy. He's a more physical guy. Eric Cush has had a really good day, just all around team, group, and individual. He was very good all day.
And some good dance moves when they put the music on in a few of the periods.
Yes, definitely.
It was good.
Kyle Kalis is a very stout guy. You can just see his strength in the way that his body, the way his legs are bent and the shape he takes from the side and how he gets into somebody and just kind of owns that. He's very strong. There were some mistakes that he made throughout the day, but he was very strong. I think Austin Corbett looked pretty good. Greg Robinson from the earlier team section to then the one-on-ones against, because he had Myles Garrett matched up with him all day. And let's face it, I think 99.9% of people on earth are going to struggle against Myles Garrett. So this is no knock on Greg, but there were times where he got beat by Myles in those teams in group sessions. The one-on-ones, he was much better, and that was really encouraging to see because he's a big guy, and if he gets his feet moving correctly, he can protect against pretty much anybody, and he did pretty well in that session.
Yeah, I think the other, today was Cush's day at the guard spot
as a starter.
So you've seen Cush. You've seen Corbett, and you've seen Kalis.
Yep.
So tomorrow, do we see Corbett again, or?
Well, it should, according to that rotation, yeah. It should go back to Corbett, and then we should see Kalis next, and then Cush again. But if I had to pick a starter right now, and I don't think this should really surprise anybody, if I had to pick somebody to start at right guard today, which we thankfully don't have to do, I would pick Eric Cush. I mean, it's not one where you're going to sit back and go, wow, he's got a sizable lead, but he has definitely been the best player at that position, and that should be expected. He's got experience in the league. He's been through many camps, and he's a big dude, and he's strong, and he takes it seriously. So that's not a huge surprise. I think Corbett, he had a couple nice blocks. There was one period, I think it was either team or inside run in a group session where they had a double team, which they had worked on an individual to start the day. They did a little bit of a double team on a 3 technique, and Corbett chipped off inside, and basically what they did was they ran the ball on the right side, and Corbett and the tackle he was playing with, I believe it was, I don't know who was playing right tackle. It might have been Kendall Lamb. They double-teamed, and then Corbett chipped off inside and sealed the second-level defender who was coming to fill that hole and created a nice little lane, and Dontrell Hilliard went right through it about 6 to 8 yards for a touchdown. And it was probably a play that didn't resonate with anybody because it was just, well, it's a touchdown in training camp or whatever, and it wasn't from a long distance. But when I saw that, I was like, that's great, because I had just sat and watched them 10 minutes prior go through every single scenario in which you've got to – I mean, they did multiple drills. One where they were passing guys off as if they were facing blitzes, and another one where they were working on double teams and chipping off, but they were coming from a wide range because you got to use your peripheral vision in those situations. And his vision is great, and his ability to quickly decide to target that guy and then execute that block was really good. So that was encouraging to see.
All right, so that's what happened on day one. If you want more of what happened today, make sure you tune in to the best podcast available. You can go on to clevelandbrowns.com to get that, or you can get it wherever you get your podcasts.